Shedding Shackles is sponsored by Roland Trujillo.
Today's program is dedicated to all the people out there who are still searching for God. And they want to find Him and experience Him. And they know that they need His love. And they know they've resented some people and hated some people. And now you just don't want to hate anymore. And so my program is for you. I would also like to say hello to the new listeners in Tucson, Arizona. I was there before, and I had a listener, one of my favorites, Maria. Haven't heard from her for a long time. But then I went off the air. I went off the air in Tucson, but I'm back. After years, I'm back. And I'm glad to be in Tucson. I also want to say hello to all the listeners in Texas, especially the new listeners in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and also all the people who listen along the Texas coast. I want to say thank you for listening and welcome, and I pray that something I say today will be of benefit to you.
Welcome to Shedding Shackles. Today's topic is Finding Grace. And now, here's your Shedding Shackles host, Roland Trujillo.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Roland, and the program is called Shedding Shackles. How often have I begun my program that way over the past years? Of late, I've begun my programs in a little different way. But now, the key is what I have to say. I want you to know that life is something very deep, and there's a mystery to life. You know that. There's a mystery to it, and it's a beautiful thing, life, given to us by our Creator. But the human being was made for a very special purpose, and part of that purpose is to glorify God. And another part is to love Him, to find Him, and then love Him. You know, there was an old song, remember? There was an old song. I think it was a rock and roll song, and the lyrics were something like, to know Him is to love Him. Remember that? Well, that's the way it is with God. To know Him is to love Him. But most of us don't know Him. All we know is about Him. We've heard about Him. And what is it that we know? One thing we do know, and that is people. People is what we know. We don't know much else than people. It was a great, wonderful thing that God did, genius of what He did to help to bring us back to Him. He sent His Son because people could relate to Him, because He is a person. People can relate to Him. But the beautiful part about it is that when we see Him, we also see the Father, because the Father sent Him, and the Son obeys Him, and the Son does the Father's will. And Christ, remember, He said, of myself I can do nothing. It is the Father within who doth the works. When we see Christ, we see the Father. And so that is how we can begin to know something of God, through His Son. Now, there are several, actually. I think there are several fairy tales, beautiful ones, meaningful ones, about being kissed by the prince. Was it Sleeping Beauty who fell asleep? And she awaited the kiss of the prince to awaken her. Well, one thing that can awaken is love. True love from God. True agape love from God. And yes, it can also come through a person, but not everybody. And most loves are not that kind of love. But the love of God awakens.
This is Jeremiah Trujillo, the producer of Shedding Shackles. I've been playing the piano since age 5.5, which means I've been playing for over 25 years. And I played all of the music that you hear on Shedding Shackles. I believe that music is endless discovery, and continually brings you joy in the discovery of new pieces.
The love of God awakens us. And so, what do we need, we humans? We need to awaken. Now, that brings me to something else that I wanted to talk about. Something I've been writing about recently, and it's going to be a new book. It'll be my 22nd book on Amazon, I think. And I was saying in the book that there are basically 3 levels of consciousness. There is awake and asleep and aware. So awake is when we're awake. But there's sleep, and then there's awake, and then there's aware. Now, awake is very good when you're awake. But there's a higher state, and the higher state is awareness. When you are aware, I'll just go ahead and tell you right now so you know where I'm going. When you have attained this higher state, this aware state, you are closer to the truth. You have access to truth. You have access to intuition. You are closer to God. You are more, you have, what's the word to say? You are free in this aware state. You are free from involvements, free from addictions, free from emotional turmoil, free from hang-ups, free from stress-related reactions. You're free of them. And you're free from your thoughts. Not that you don't have thoughts, but you are not bound to them. You are not immersed in them. You are not subject to them. When you are in the aware state, you are the master. Instead of being subject, you are the master. You're very close to God. And in this close to God state, you become aware of Him. And everything you see reminds you of Him and His glory and His craftsmanship and His love and His honor and His goodness and His creativity. And even when you see things that aren't good, they remind you of Him by His goodness contrasted with that which is not so good. When you are aware, you have a protection. You have a protection that protects you from danger. And when you are aware, you can see through deceit and see through lies. It's a very beautiful state. And in this aware state, there are also higher emotions. They're not really emotions, but I'll use the term emotion that go with this aware state, like joy, reverence, delight, awe, wonder, which are something like what you knew when you were a little child, before you became upset and before you fell asleep. Now, what happens to us is in our awake, but when you are awake, fully awake. Now, let's get back to awake, the next lowest level, where most of us are some of the time. Awake is when you are free to look around and free to consider and free to ponder and free to direct your attention appropriately to this and to that is appropriate. But awake is good. Animals are awake. So when you are awake, you're like an animal that is awake. When your cat is awake and your dog is awake, they're ready to respond. When you're awake, you are ready to respond to things and to move appropriately. And you also can use your reason. You have access to that. Animals don't have reason. But then when we fall from awakeness, what do we fall to? We fall to a hypnotic state, an unaware state. We could say asleep to reality. So once again, I'm not talking about going in bed and putting the blankets over yourself and falling asleep. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about asleep to reality. See, lost in some kind of a trance, lost in a daydream, lost in something so that you're not awake. So you see people who get lost in things. They're not fully there. All you have to do is just observe someone who is lost in texting, for example. They're not totally there. They're sort of there, but they're not totally there. Or people who are watching television and they're all caught up in the ball game. They're caught up in what's going on the television screen, and they're not totally there. There's some kind of a rapport, an unhealthy rapport, that is keeping them from being totally there. So you can have a parent all caught up in watching television or all caught up in texting, and the child comes and asks a question, and the parent just doesn't even hear the child ask the question. Or if they hear the question, it's, yeah, go ahead. They're not totally there. So that's the problem. A lot of us say, my dad wasn't there for me. Now here we go. We say, my dad wasn't there for me. Well, maybe he was there. I mean, he was physically there. In the evening, he came home from work. On weekends, he was at home, out in the yard or in the garage or taking you guys somewhere. He was physically there, but he wasn't totally there. And can you see now that your dad, let's suppose that your dad was halfway decent. A lot of us had a dad that was decent. And we wanted to love our dad so much, but somehow he wasn't totally there. And he became angry. He would get angry and then he really wasn't there. Or he stormed off and went to the bar, or he left. So then he really, really wasn't there. But even when he was there, he wasn't totally there. Can you see now that perhaps your dad was caught up in what I've just been talking about? Caught up in something, lost in something, like when he was watching television. When he's watching television, he wasn't totally there. Well, maybe this level of consciousness, this lowered state of consciousness that he had when he was like watching television, maybe that's the way he sort of was all the time. And that's why he wasn't there for you. Now the question comes up. See, then you resented him, didn't you? But now maybe you can see, oh, okay, something. So what happened? Something happened. It took your dad away from awakeness into this lower state. See, we can walk around in this lower state. When a person is watching television, well, yeah, they're awake. They're not, physically asleep. When they're texting, when they're caught up in something, when they're having an argument, when they're too involved in work, they're involved with some person, or they're involved in whatever they're involved in, even a hobby. They're totally involved in it. They're not totally there. So they don't have awareness, the higher state.
You're listening to Shedding Shackles, helping you navigate life's challenges with poise and confidence.
See, the thing about awakeness is when you are awake, then you can move to the higher level of awareness. And it's in the aware state. Remember, I said you have access to intuition, to God's love, to his guidance. In this higher state, you are the master, And you can bring forth good in this higher state of awareness. That's what you needed your dad to have. You needed your dad to have that, and your mom needed him to have that. But something had happened. But now you must see that he was a victim. And when I say your dad, I could be talking about anyone. I could be talking about your mom, your brother, yourself. And when you're in this lower state of unawareness, you don't even know that you are. You think you're fully awake, but you're not totally there. When you get involved with drugs, when you get involved in alcohol, in gambling, when you get involved with some gang or the wrong person, or you get involved with some group that takes you over and dominates you, then what happened? See, you fell away from, instead of being the master, you become the victim. Instead of being fully awake and seeing through the deceit, you fall to this lower state where you can't see through the deceit. You actually become subject to the deceit. So now, what happened? Well, what happened was, we could call it becoming emotionalized, becoming traumatized. Usually it starts when we're little children. Someone is cruel, someone is mean, someone is confusing, someone pressures us or teases us or taunts us or something, and we fall from full awakeness. We fall into, see, we were awake, and then there was this latent awareness, which is the prize consciousness. So we fell. But once we fall, then we go around. See, it was reacting that made you fall. But here, I want you to see that when you are fully awake and then you become aware, when you are aware and something happens, you can bring reason to bear upon it. You can observe it. You can question it. You can ponder it. But you don't react. You don't become upset. You're not subject to it. See, as soon as you start reacting, then processes kick in, which are the same for animals, incidentally. Processes kick in that because you reacted to this thing, it becomes a dominant threat. See, it becomes dominant, and you react. And in your reaction, you're kind of trying to survive. And when it continues to dominate, then you begin to change. You begin to adapt. See, in nature, the animal runs, the animal fights or runs. That's it. It gets it over very quickly by running away. But when something becomes totally dominant, so dominant that the animal cannot overcome it or run from it, the animal is forced to change, forced to adapt. Well, in your life, when you react to things, see, it's become a habit. People taught you to react. They reacted. They made you react, and then they taught you to react. So you began reacting to everything. But everything that you react to, see, first you reacted to your mom when she yelled at you, or your dad when he yelled at you, or he wasn't there for you, or other kids when they were mean to you, or when somebody stole your stuff and you reacted. And so you react. But then you developed the habit of reacting to everything. And before long, you went around reacting. And every little thing that you react to, it becomes dominant. See? And if you keep reacting to it, it'll eventually change you. That's right. It'll absorb your energy. It'll put something of itself in you, and then you become in its image. So you have developed a habit of reacting. And of course, you suppress them. You don't show them on the surface. Sometimes you just smile, but you react.
You're listening to Shedding Shackles with Roland Trujillo, Christian stress management on the radio for over 34 years.
See, so you react with resentment, and you fall from awakeness into this lower state. So there you are, resentful. See, and then in this resentful state, what do? You escape into thinking, into the imagination. So once you have fallen from reality by something that dominated you through your reaction, see, It dominates you. Then you fall away and you escape to find any kind of a peace at all into imagination. So in your imagination, you hide. And there you build the case against the other person or whatever it was that made you react, so you can judge them and lord it over them in your imagination. And you can also have a fantasy world where you fantasize about this and that. So you regain some sort of mastery and dignity in your imagination, but it's just pretend. It's only pretend. All right. So you want to come back to awakeness, and you want to come back to, and you want to find awareness. Now, the great mystics, see, Christ had this aware state, and he wants to lead you to it. He wants to lead you to it. And so he can, but when you become, let me put it this way. We go through life reactive, until that's all we know, and we're fallen into this state, and just about everything we see around us causes us to react. You have no idea how reactive you are. And then you react just so you can escape. See, and then when you can't escape into your thoughts and hide in your thoughts and in imagining, or when you can't escape into daydreams of overcoming all these people and getting rich and all that stuff, then you use drugs or alcohol or marijuana or something to escape, or you use music to escape, or you use something to escape. So now what I want you to see is you have to come back to reality. You have to come back. You have to come back. Remember the old song, softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling for you and for me. Well, he is. He's calling you. So you have to come back. And how do you come back? Well, now here's the thing. What I was going to say earlier is that most of us have been so reactive. We're guilty for it. See, you escaped from reality. See, you became so reactive, such a victim, such an emotional person, so devastated that you knew you had fallen, and you didn't want to see it. You didn't want to admit it. So all you could do was hate people. You hated them because they're the ones. It was people that caused it. Your dad wasn't there for you. Your mom was cruel, or your mom lorded it over you, or your brother or sister were mean to you, or kids at school teased you, or teachers were unfair, or something or other. So you hated people. You resented people. You judged people. See? And so you have acquired guilt for that. And now you become totally fixated on people, totally fascinated by people. You can't stop judging them. You can't stop resenting them. You can't stop looking to them. That's all you know is people. And then they betray you. See, they haven't found it. They too are fallen. And so you have to come back. And how? By reacting less. Learn to go through life without reacting. Just observe life. Observe people without forming a judgment. She's good, he's bad, he's nice, she's mean, he's this, she's that. Just observe them. Stand back, get a little mental distance, take a mental step back, get the big picture, and just go through life. Do your job, be a mom, be a dad, go to work, be a student, whatever. Stop judging other people. And don't hate them. And don't look for love. See, but the other trap is that you look for love out there. You keep looking for love, and the reason you look for love is because you fell away from God's love. But there is no love out there. You have to find God's love. So don't resent people when they don't have love for you. And then, having calmed down, being less reactive, now you become more awake. And now, awake, you can be more reasonable, more rational, more thoughtful. You can be calmer. You can question instead of reacting. See, you can question, or you can watch, or you can wait. Now you have choices. You don't have to react. You don't have to get upset. See? And knowing that other people, they too have fallen, knowing that they're not being deliberately cruel, they also are lost in some kind of a state, a lowered state. You don't hate them. See? And by not hating other people, by not resenting other people, Now you are awake. Now the only thing you have to do is wait upon God. Wait for God. Wait for God and yearn for Him to come. Yearn for Him to give you light. Yearn for the love you've never known, for the Father you've never known. Now, when He begins to enter, you will feel a humbling. It'll happen when you suddenly see that you hated your mom and you hated your dad. Now you see he couldn't help himself, but you hated him anyway. Or you hated him because he embarrassed you at school, or he wasn't cool, or something like that. And now you see it, and now you're sad to see it. You regret your resentments of other people, and you're sorry. And you see, you can't change yourself. You can't change the past. There's nothing you can do. You're just sorry. It's a regret in your heart. And God sees that. See, in fact, He's the one that's making it happen. How? By shining His light upon you. And when in His light, in the light of His goodness, you see your own wrongness. In the light of His love, you see your own resentments. And now, instead of trying to defend yourself and fix yourself and put on a show, you just see it. That is the beginning, my friend, for you. And there's a name. It's called repentance. You've heard of it. It's private. It's between you and God. You see something, you shed a tear, and you sob a little bit, and then you wipe away the tears. And you go out in the world. You hold your head up high and go about your business. And you realize then that you're forgiven. All God wanted you to do was see that you made a mistake and be sorry. And He forgives you. Now you go about your life. And everything's brighter. Life is sweet. And you know that God is now in your life. Until next time, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Shedding Shackles with your host, Roland Trujillo. Now you can listen to Roland anytime by logging on to www.sheddingshackles.com. You'll find lots of free, helpful information, and you can also order materials or make a donation by using your credit card. Once again, the web address is sheddingshackles.com. Please remember that Shedding Shackles is listener supported. Thank you.
Shedding Shackles is sponsored by Roland Trujillo.